Welcome to Chapter 4/Episode 4 of Small Talk with Shania. Before we get into this episode, I feel like we need to do a little check-in, okay? How are you? How are you doing mentally, physically? Where are we at right now? What's the vibe? I honestly feel like I'm a little delulu at the moment. I feel overwhelmed. I feel like I can't quite keep up at the moment, and that's just where I am mentally. I feel like we're only 2 months into 2025 and it's already so hectic. What does that mean for the rest of the year? There's so many book releases recently. There's so much happening outside of work and outside of social media, and I just feel like I simply cannot keep up. So if you're feeling that same way, if you're feeling pressure, if you're feeling like you're also going a little delulu, you're not alone, okay? We are all in this together. We're all feeling it together, and we're going to have a good time today. This is your moment to relax. This is your time to be stress-free. We're going to have a lot of fun today because since I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm also feeling a little sassy. That's right. And because I'm feeling sassy, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do some DNF drama. Yeah. That's one of my favorite things to talk about, to be honest with you. I love talking about books that I have DNF'd, and I love talking about books that I should have DNF'd, but maybe did not DNF. Oh, it's about to get hot here. We are about to have some fun. I want to preface this by saying, before I start talking about any of the books that I DNF'd or any of the books that I wish I would have DNF'd, this is your warning right here, okay? This is my opinion. Okay? If you loved any of the books that I'm about to talk about, that is amazing for you. They just personally maybe weren't my journey. They weren't my vibe. I wasn't vibing with them. They didn't make the cut, you know? They didn't do it for me. And that's okay. Because that doesn't take away your love for the book. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It takes my love away from the book because I just didn't like it. But you can still go on and love it. You can still go on and read it and recommend it to people. And with that same vein, just because I DNF'd a book or maybe I didn't like it, that doesn't mean I'm not going to, not recommend it to you. Because just because I liked it doesn't mean that somebody else out there isn't going to like it, because reading is subjective. So I don't think I need to go any further into that, okay? If I didn't like the book, I didn't like the book. If you liked it, that's amazing for you. That's the bottom line, okay? I have some things that I need to get off my chest, and this is the moment that I'm going to do it, okay? This is a segment that we're calling DNF Drama. I feel like I need to do this every once in a while to talk to you guys about things that we need to just dissect, okay? And this is basically also to make me feel like I'm not crazy, because these are some books that are very well known and very well loved and hyped, and I have questions, okay? So we're gonna get right into it. Um, Now this one might ruffle some feathers, but that's okay. I did not DNF the Ravenhood series, Flock, Exodus. I don't remember the last name, the last book. I did not DNF it. However, I wish that I did. I did not care about this book at all. I didn't care. Throughout the entire book, when I read Flock, I was intrigued at first. And then it got to the end and I couldn't care less, to be so completely honest with you. Then we get to the next book, and then something dramatic happens. If you've read the book, you know what happens. Tell me why it made me happy that happened. Tell me why I did not give a fuck about it. I honestly, when I read that book, when I read the first one, Flock, something about it seemed off to me. It has a lot of praise. People really like it. And the characters, they say, like, you get really attached to. I was vibing with the whole, like, two guys, one girl, like, you can't have her, I can have her. And then the small town thing, I really enjoyed the town that they lived in. And I enjoy the dynamic of, like, mystery, like, ooh, why are they doing that? Why are they saying that? What's going on? But it got to the point where I was like, no, really, what's going on? I was like, no, like, okay, time's up. The joke's over. What is the plot of this book? Where is the plot? It's non-existent. I couldn't find the plot. And then you get into the second book and it's just even weirder. And then there's another person involved. I didn't enjoy it. I'm so sorry. It just wasn't my vibe. And I feel so bad because like people love this book and they praise it so much. And I also had heard it's like really spicy and stuff. And it was. There was some good spicy parts to it, but I don't know. Like I said, I just didn't really care about the characters. I didn't connect to them. The story was a little odd. She's in the I'm not going to give anything away, no spoilers, but yeah, when that plot twist happened, I didn't care. I didn't care about it. And then I started listening to the third book cuz I listened to these on audiobook, which I thought would make it better cuz they are duet style narration, which I love. And I just didn't I stopped listening. Actually, okay. So I read Flock and I read Exodus, and then I think the next one is called The Finish Line. I started listening to that one because I had finished the other ones. I was like, well, I got to finish the series. And then I DNF'd that one. That one I did DNF, which was The Finish Line. The first two I didn't. I should have stopped at the first one, to be honest. I know there are a couple other people out there who do feel the same way, though. There's some of my mutuals and people, other book talkers that have said very similar things. So I know I'm not crazy. Maybe I am a little crazy, but I don't know. So that one, yeah, it's a no for me. The next book I'm going to talk about is one that I actually did DNF. Okay. This one is The Architect by Nikki Sloan. She also writes, what is it? I have it right here in my pile. Oh gosh, I forget what it's called. Oh, The Frat Boy. There it is. She also writes The Frat Boy, which I own the physical copy too. I heard someone talking about it online saying that The Frat Boy was really good, really spicy vibes. And I had heard a lot of things about Nikki Sloan as well. And so I was like, well, I'll give it a try, but I wanted to listen to something on audiobook at the time. And I think that this was duet narration, if I do remember correctly. I probably got, I want to say maybe 30% into this book. And I quickly realized that it was nothing but cringe and nothing but uncomfortableness. When I read this book, I just remember cringing a lot. And I remember just going, ugh, I don't, It just made me feel icky. And it's not even because of like the contents of the book. It wasn't because of the spice. It was the writing. To me, the writing was so incredibly like insufferable, and it was just almost like a Wattpad type of thing, like very just over the top cringe and so obvious. And it was just it was just messy to me. I think that's what it was. I just didn't have interest in it. um, I was invested a little bit towards the beginning when like things were starting to happen, and um, then there's like the downstairs and then the basement, and he's working on sculpting things or whatever. I don't remember what he does, but yeah, I was intrigued because I was like, what is that? What's going on? It seemed like it was going to be like real kinky, and it was going to get like real interesting, and it kind of had almost like a mystery thriller vibe to it as well. But it wasn't that. So I did end up DNFing that one. But that's not to say I won't still read The Frat Boy by her, because I do have it. Maybe I'll try and listen to that on audiobook, or try to pick it up one day when I'm really feeling really, really spicy and wanting to like read something like super taboo. There was also another one by her. What is it? The Pools Party? I don't remember what the name of it was, but there was another one by her I tried to listen to, and I didn't get very far in it. I maybe listened like 10 minutes, and I think I just gave up at that point. But yeah, no hate to Nikki Sloan, but so far I'm off to a rough start personally. If you've read that book, let me know what you think about it, because maybe I just started off with a weird one. Maybe I should have started off with The Frat Boy. That's what I'm looking at. It. It's like literally right in front of me. It's like looking me in the eye right now. Okay, this one I also did DNF, and this is probably going to ruffle a couple of feathers as well. This is The Sinner by Chantal Tessier. Tessier? I never really know how to say her name correctly, but I say Chantal Tessier. Can someone fact check that and see actually how you pronounce that? um, Anyways, The Sinner by Chantal Tessier. This is kind of a journey, okay? Way back when, once upon a time, I read The Ritual by Chantal Tessier and I loved it. Oh my God, I ate it up. It was one of the first like true dark romance taboo books that I had ever read before. I had like read, I think, Hunting Adeline, and I think I went into this one like pretty soon after. So it was like right when I was getting in to more dark romance vibes, you know? And I loved The Ritual. I loved the characters. I thought that the plot was great. I thought it was so incredibly spicy and taboo. And it was honestly a lot to take in at first. And it's obviously one of those books where you have to like go in knowing your trigger warnings. You have to go in like with an open mind because the female character is freaky, the main male character is freaky. It has a lot of dark subjects and a lot of dark tones and content in it. So you have to go into it with an open mind and knowing that that's what it's going to be about. But the thing is that The Ritual didn't bother me. I had a fun time reading it. And then I decided maybe a couple months after, had to be months, because I hadn't thought about that series for a while. But then I picked up The Sinner, which is the second book in the series. Um, and I realized I got maybe like 10-15% of the way through, only a couple chapters in, and it was too spicy. I remember when I opened it and I started reading it, I was like, okay, same vibes. It takes place in the same school, the same situation. Was it the Lords? Like the whole situation. So I was like, okay, it's familiar territory. I get it. But then I just remember putting it down and saying, this is too spicy. So I just thought that I wasn't in the mood for it personally. And then I kept kind of reading a little bit more and realized, okay, I'm really going to truly put this down. I'm going to do like a soft DNF. I knew I was done reading it for that time, but I thought to myself, maybe in the future, maybe I'll go back and I'll end up reading it again. Maybe I'll listen to an audiobook. Maybe I'll switch to my Kindle reading. I don't know. I just knew that I wasn't 100% done with it. Fast forward to maybe a couple months afterwards, I was in the mood for a dark romance, something spicy, something taboo. So I figured, let me pick it up again. And I did. And I had the exact same issue. And I think that I honestly, because I started it from the beginning again, I forgot what it was about. I forgot the characters. So I said, if I'm going to, pick this back up again, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to start from the beginning. I'm going to start fresh. And then I realized I stopped exactly where I stopped last time I had picked it up for the exact same reason. It was too spicy, too dark for me. The Ritual was dark, it was spicy. The Sinner is darker and spicier, and it made me a little uncomfortable with some of the contents in these books. Like, I feel like when it comes to dark romance books, you have to tread lightly. It could either go really, really well or it can go really, really bad. And I'm that type of person where it's like, it can have one thing that'll make me say, nope, that was too much. But then it could have something else to say, okay, that's my limit. Like, I'm okay with this, but anything more is a no for me. Do you know what I mean? And with dark romance, it can be tricky. And The Sinner pushed that limit for me. I have another book I'm going to talk about in a little bit too that also pushed that limit for me, that made me realize I'm not I'm not a dark romance girly at heart. I know that for a fact. I'm okay with it, but every once in a while when I am in the mood, I know what kind of books I can pick up, essentially. But I know that I'm not a romance girly at heart. I'm a hopeless romantic at heart. And with dark romances, sometimes they build that relationship between the FMC and the MMC that makes it not romantic anymore, and it makes it more concerning. Like, I'm all for a stalker romance. Trust me, I'm all for a morally gray MMC. I live for it. I love it. But when it comes to the point where it's just like overly spicy for no reason, and the character, the MMC, is too morally gray to the point where I'm like, do you even like her as a human being? Like, you're just torturing her, and like she keeps making excuses for it and like trying to make it like downplay it. That's where I have the issue, and that's where I had the issue with The Sinner. So I did inevitably end up DNFing that. I did. I have The Sacrifice too on my bookshelf, and I don't honestly think that this is a series that I'm going to continue reading in the future, simply just because I know I didn't really enjoy that. And like I said, I'm not really a dark romance girly, so I think that day is up for me. But it was a fun time while it lasted. It was a fun time. Next I'm going to talk about The Last One by Will Dean. We're changing genres. Okay, we're going into mystery thriller vibes. I read this book for my book club maybe almost a year ago, a little under a year ago. We picked up The Last One by Will Dean. It takes place on a cruise ship where the premise is this woman is going on a cruise ship. It's like kind of a vacation with her and her husband. And she wakes up one day and every person on the cruise ship is gone. And she is the last one on the cruise ship, which is why it's called The Last One. Then she realizes after a little bit of investigating, she's actually not the last one on the cruise ship. There's 3 other people, I believe, on there. And so they're all the last ones on the cruise ship. There's no one else. And then weird things start happening. And then things go absolutely crazy. Now, you would think, being something that is surrounding a cruise ship in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the ocean, with only a few people who end up having to go through really traumatic situations and having to go through a lot of unknown circumstances and literally life and death type of situations, that this would call for a really good mystery thriller book. But it did not. It would have been a better movie. It would have been a better show. It would have been a better, maybe, like, just general story. I get the concept. I do. The concept was good. It just wasn't executed right, and that's what did it for me. I don't know if I mentioned it. I did not DNF this book because I read it for my book club, but I wish that if I could go back in time, I would DNF it. Or if someone was to read it, I probably wouldn't recommend it unless, you really felt strongly about reading it. But it missed the mark for me. It's not very often that I sit here and say that, oh yeah, this would be better as a movie, or the movie was better than the book. This is one of those instances where I truly think that this book would have been better if it was adapted into a film or a TV show. But it missed the mark written as a book, I think. I don't know what could have made it better. It just wasn't. It had a lot of confusing parts, and I feel like there was a lot of loopholes, and then the ending was crazy. The ending got me. I will say that. The plot twist at the very end, like the very, very last page, that had me shook. But other than that, it was just, I was bored. I was so incredibly bored. And I listened to an audiobook. So I thought I was gonna love it because I was like, well, I mean, I love audiobooks. It's the best way to like get engaged into it and feel really immersed in the story. And I felt like I was going to picture it like a movie. And I did. The book was better in my head as I read it because like I said, it was going to be a better movie. So not bad, just not for me. If you've read that, let me know what you thought of it. Or if you have it on your TBR, let me know if you're going to still read it or not. Don't let me persuade you not to read it, but that was just my opinion personally. Another book that I have is this one I did DNF. Again, it was another one that I listened to on audiobook. I got pretty far into it. I don't know how to actually pronounce the name of this. I think it's Keres. It's Keres, and it's by Sadie Kincaid, which I hate to say because I do love Sadie Kincaid. I read the entire, what was it, the Chicago Ruthless series by her. Loved it. That series is badass. I love that series. It was the first thing that I ever read from her. There's actually 2, if I really want to get into it, there's actually 2 books by her that I have DNF'd, and that was Karis which is another book in the Chicago Ruthless series. I think it's the fourth one in the Chicago Ruthless series. And then the other one was The Perfect Fit by her. Both of those I DNF'd. It's so weird. Oh, it's so weird because I love reverse harem, why choose romances, and both of these books are that. They're both why choose. They both have multiple like men and one woman. I love reading those stories. So I thought I was going to absolutely eat these up, and I just didn't. They were very much lacking in the plot for me. And it was one of those where it was like so much spice for no reason. And I was like, let's get on with the story. Okay. Yep. Okay. They're doing it again. Oh, there they go again. Yep. All right. What are we gonna get to the next part of this case? There's stuff that's happening, and y'all are just sitting around fooling around. That's how it felt when I was reading the book. So I was like, enough already. I had to put it down. I just couldn't finish it because they were too spicy for no reason. And I felt like the characters just were very like one dimensional and didn't have a lot of depth to them. When I read these kind of stories, it is dark romance. They're like mafia romance type of things. And they're very like morally gray. Like I was saying before, like when you read those, you have to have good plot in them, and you have to have the spice support the plot, and it needs to be purposeful, and it needs to have a purpose. Like you can't just put a spicy scene in there just for fun. You can if you do it right, but in this case it needs to be purposeful. Otherwise it's so obvious that you've just added it in there to make it spicy and to like fill a silence, like an awkward silence almost. It's how it feels. So that was my beef with those two books. I didn't mean to just like add to Sadie Kincaid books, because I do enjoy her writing. I love the Chicago Ruthless series. Such a fun one, but those ones just fell a little bit flat for me, to be honest. I'm so sorry. I think that those are like ones that I could learn to love eventually. Like maybe if I went back to them, maybe I'd feel different. I don't know. It's really hard to say. It's very, very difficult to say. Another one that I wanted to talk about as well is another one I think you guys are going to be a little bit upset, because every single time I talk about this on any of my channels or any of my social media, people get so upset with me. But I have to speak my truth. Okay? Let me speak my truth. And that is Hooked by Emily McIntyre. I just don't think that retellings are for me. I've said it once, I'll say it again. I don't think my vibe is retellings. Almost every single book that I've ever read that had any sliver of a retelling vibe or element to it, I have not enjoyed. And that was one of them. I read Hooked, and to be honest, it wasn't horrible when I first read it. I remember after I read it, I was like fresh into reading. I had just maybe had like 15 books under my belt. I don't know. I hadn't read a lot. Picked this one up, bought the entire series, literally the entire series. I think I'm missing like the newest one or the newest two that literally just came out. But like other than that, I have the whole series, and I thought I was going to love it. So I bought every book, and I just didn't. I really have nothing else to say about the book other than it just felt forced. I felt like the relationship felt forced, and I just don't like retellings. And it's not a retelling, I guess. It's technically like loosely based off of the tale of Wendy and Peter Pan and Neverland and things. But yeah, I have all the other books. I'm pretty much going to get rid of them. I've heard that they get better, but like I said, I just don't think it's my vibe. So for that reason, yeah, I did not DNF it, but I kind of wish I did. It's a little rude. It's a little much to say, but I kind of wish I would have DNF'd it. This next one honestly hurts me the most, I think, because I wanted so incredibly bad to love it. I really did. I tried to love it, and I just don't think it's for me. However, if you can convince me to keep going, I will. So let's see if you can convince me. But that is the Shatter Me series. Now, it's a bit of a journey with this one. When I first read Shatter Me, the very first book in the series, loved it, gave it a 5 star. Can you believe that I gave it a 5 star? Who am I? I gave Shatter Me a 5 star. I read it and I was like, oh my God, that was amazing. I loved that. The plot twist at the end, the kind of cliffhanger thing. I'm like, I want to continue reading about these characters. I want to know more about Aaron. What is his name? Aaron. I see. It's been so long. What is his name? Aaron Warren? I could be so wrong. Don't come for me if I'm wrong about that. I wanted to learn more about him. And then you get into the second book, which is Unravel Me. And I literally got about 50% through the book and I was like, hello, where is this blonde, delicious man that everyone keeps talking about that they love so much? He was non-existent. We barely got him. And she kept pining over this whatever the hell that guy's name was. I don't even remember what it was, but I was tired of him. He was like the whole book and he was getting so annoying and I was so confused throughout what was happening and she was kind of insufferable for me, Juliet, and I was like I'm done. I had to close the book and I had to put it away and I told myself it was going to be a soft DNF at the time, but it's been over a year at this point. I don't think I'm going to pick it back up again. Like, unless you guys can convince me otherwise. I'm not really feeling it, to be honest with you. I just don't. It was boring, in my opinion. I don't know if I could keep going. I want to because I hear it's so good and my best friend loves it. She finished the entire series and she said it was great and there's so much love behind it, but I need to see the hype. Maybe I need to start completely over and like read that book. Maybe I listen to it on audiobook. Who knows? I don't know. That could honestly help. Sometimes when I feel like I don't want to read a book or something, I listen to it on audiobook and it changes my entire mind about it because then I like find this new love and I feel like I'm part of the book. It's just such a good feeling. So who knows? Maybe I'll revisit it in the future. You guys got to let me know. I'm counting on you to basically make the decision for me. So, what's another book that I've DNF? I'm trying to look at my bookshelf now at this point and see. There's quite a bit that I probably wanted to have DNF'd and other ones that I definitely. Oh, I wanted to talk about the other one. Sorry, I forgot. It is called, oh my gosh, I literally just read it and I talked about it as one of my least favorite reads of all of 2024. I talked about it on like my YouTube channel a while ago. That's Beautiful Fiend by 𝓢𝓽𝓪𝓂, I think. This is another one that is like very, very dark romance. I did not DNF it. I read the whole entire thing and it was my least favorite read of 2024. One of them, one of my least favorites. Again, just really, really dark, really incredibly dark. And I didn't like how the FMC kept kind of what's the word? She kept making excuses for the things that the MMC was doing. She was justifying everything that he was doing, and I just wasn't vibing with it. So, like I said, I just don't think that I'm a dark romance girly. So that was a little bit much for me. Obviously, check your trigger warnings if you do decide to read it, but I just think that that's not really my vibe. So that's probably why it was one of my least favorite reads of all last year. So those are just a couple of the books that I have either DNF'd or books that I read that I feel like I should have DNF'd and maybe just didn't like. I had a very strong opinion about them. Like I said, they are just my opinion and mine alone. Just because I didn't like it doesn't mean that you're not going to like it. And if you have read these books and you love them, then that's amazing for you. Okay? Doesn't take away your love for them, like I said. And I think that it's just really important to remember that reading is subjective and everyone has a different experience when they read a book, depending on your mindset that you're in and your mood at the time and things that you might have already read. If you're in a reading slump, anything can change your reading experience on a book. So take it very lightly. Take everything that I say with a grain of salt as far as my opinion goes. There are some books that my best friend loves that I don't love and some that I really like that she didn't like. And it's fine. At the end of the day, they are just books. They are fictional. They are not real. They are just a way for us to step out of our reality and get into a fictional world for us to kind of lose ourselves into and be stress free and just enjoy the things that we love. So at the end of the day, read whatever the hell you want, okay? That's the moral of the story. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode today. We're going to put a bookmark in today's chapter, and I will see you guys in the next chapter. Bye.